Hey, how's it going? SeaTactics here. You know, I've been watching To Your Eternity on the King of Anime podcast for the last 20 weeks, and ever since the show ended, there's a void in my heart. And this is different from the usual void I feel. The deep, existential panic of realizing that your favorite anime of the season has ended, and there is only one pack of ramen left, so you have to ration it. To Your Eternity. You wouldn't guess immediately, but this anime is from Yoshitoki Oima. If you don't know her, you probably know her previous work, A Silent Voice. I don't need to say any more on that. You know this series is going to be interesting given her output, but this series isn't another slice of life. Instead, To Your Eternity has lots of action, gore, death, and many other harsh subjects you wouldn't expect from the woman who created this and this. In reality, To Your Eternity feels more in the same vein as something like a Vinland Saga or Berserk 1997 than it does, say, A Silent Voice. Shocking character deaths, violence, and harsh, grotesque sights populate this anime. The sharp example of this is the first episode, in which we see a boy and his wolf go on a journey to find all of the people of his village that left months before trying to find more prosperous lands, only for the boy to make a fatal error, slip, and injure himself. This leads to the boy's untimely and shocking death, only to be replicated by his wolf in the end and become our main character, Fushi. This first episode sets the scene perfectly for what's to come. It encapsulates the undying humanity of this series and how the boy will not give up, while juxtaposing it with the fragility of life. This is something our main character, Fushi, throughout the series struggles with. From the death of March, who he considered being an almost mother-like figure for himself, to Gugu, who he considered a brother. Fushi's life as an eternal being with human-like desires and feelings shows the conflict this character has. He's an immortal who lives in a world where nothing is immortal. This struggle transfers over into other characters like Pioran and March, whose deaths leave a massive impact on Fushi's overall character. March is the first death he experiences, and it's one of the most shocking deaths, as hers sets a precedent for how deaths are handled in the series. But as the show goes on, you get the idea that there may be a trend set in place. Fushi goes to a new place, makes a new friend dies. But while that may be true in certain circumstances, the show successfully avoids the pitfalls of becoming stale by spending oodles of time developing these characters, giving them memorable moments and deaths, which are the perfect way to send them out. My mind goes to Gugu's, who was my favorite death in the series for how simplistic, yet beautifully portrayed it is, both visually, musically, and through the voice acting. But not all of the supporting cast suffer the fate of death. Characters like Tonari survive, and I'm there for it. Her character is a breath of fresh air, and I think it would have been a poor decision to kill her just because the arc she was in had ended. But then there is Pioran, the best secondary character. This lady is on social security at this point, but she's one of the last people that Fushi can call family, and thus goes through hell and high water to rescue her and protect her. If March is Fushi's mother, Pioran his aunt, Gugu and Rin his brother and sister respectfully, then Pioran is his grandmother. Loud and abrasive, she's full of wisdom and even secrets, like how she's an elusive criminal known for being a murderer. Cranky and old as fuck, Pioran isn't a character I expected to love as much as I did, but I ended up falling in love with the character by the final episode. Her progression and how they handled her in the last episode is something that sent goosebumps up my arms and tears down my face. The conflict of the Knockers, though, puts into perspective for Fushi how important life and his relationship with people are. Initially, Fushi ignores the man in black's words of the Knockers coming and killing his friends. Stubbornly, he lives a happy life with Gugu, Rin, and Pioran until the Knockers come and Gugu loses his life. The reality sets in for Fushi in that moment that he cannot remain stagnant, and that if he wants to continue living for himself and others, then he must actively protect the people around him. This is the brilliance of the Knockers. While alone, they aren't anything more than your basic threat, give or take. The reality is these creatures are anything such. They suck the life out of Fushi and take on the forms he's acquired. Fushi is not only fighting the Knockers, he's fighting himself. himself, the people he loves, and the enemy all at once. But a great hero is always defined by a great villain, and while the Knockers are a great threat, they do not compare to one Hayase. This mercenary initially is cold-hearted and ruthless, opting to sacrifice March to an Oniguma. In the end though, it backfires when Fushi takes the beast's form and deals with Hayase himself, severely injuring her. But it isn't long before it's revealed that Hayase is following Fushi because she's obsessed with him. Now, with a scarred face and a much more rugged and unhinged look to her, Hayase will not stop until everyone Fushi knows is dead so that she can always be with him. Some sort of twisted love in a sense. This character is captivating, not only because she is a train wreck, but the most capable fighter and foe that Fushi has faced thus far. Okay, think about this for a moment. This is how much of a badass Hayase is. The Knockers easily infected an island of people, and all Hayase had to do was flex her arm to stop a Knocker from affecting her, then just rips it out of her arm as if it were a fly. Hayase is badass, ruthless and terrifying, even more terrifying than the Knockers. Hayase can't be bargained with. She can't be reasoned with. She doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear. She absolutely will not stop until she can say Fushi is hers. That, my friends, reminds me of my ex. Yoshitoki Oima has once again created a cast of characters that demands attention. The hallmarks of her writing, characters that are complex and morally gray while still having them be relatable, interesting, and unique, continue. The question many will ask is, does To Your Eternity live up to a silent voice? Well, that film is so well beloved that I think it will take time for many people to understand where this series, To Your Eternity, sits with a silent voice. But we'll just say for now, at face value, for my taste, I think To Your Eternity, pound for pound, can at least sit next to Oima's sister series. If anything, Oima proves to herself and her audience that she isn't a one-trick pony. She can continue to reinvent herself time and time again, and still hit those same strides, but for different genres and themes entirely. You definitely should go out of your way to watch this series if you haven't already. It gets a full recommendation from me. But did you love it? Did you hate it? Tell me in the comments below, but also remember I have many ways to support the SeaTactics, like Teespring, Patreon, and much, much more. Links are in the description, guys. You're beautiful. You're smart. I love you. Bye-bye.